Okay, good afternoon, everyone. My name is Mrinal, and I am a generative AI engineer working at CellStrat. So today is going to be a discussion on this topic called utilizing generative AI for drug repurposing. Uh, so, uh, so we will dive deep into how generative AI can help in uh, accelerating a concept called drug repurposing. So a bit of background on drug repurposing. So one may ask what drug repurposing. So you feel free to cut me in between because I'm not able to see the chat section um, of Google Meet. So please feel free if you have any doubts, you can raise your voice. So this is a discussion panel. So what is drug repurposing, right? So drug repurposing is like giving a new purpose to an already existing drug. So you're trying to find a new therapeutic application for that particular drug. So this is very crucial for large pharmaceutical firms and biotech firms when since they are developing drugs and using different chemical, using different um, um, artificially synthesized molecules, and these are usually complex molecules. So this is a very cost-effective method which can aid pharmaceutical firms and biotech firms in not having to spend time and resources to create a certain drug. So a lot of drugs have been passed through clinical trials and have been failing at the clinical trial stage. And this has caused a lot of losses in financial losses and even like resources and time lost for all of these pharmaceutical firms. So what if there was an other extended pipeline which could rejuvenate the purpose of this drug, which could rejuvenate um, the functionality of that existing molecule and give it a new purpose. So this is what drug repurposing is all about. And so some of these examples that I can think of is sildenafil. So sildenafil was a drug that was traditionally used for curing heart diseases like arrhythmia and atrial fibrillation. But now they have repurposed it for erectile dysfunction. And another one which is famous, and you probably come across this a lot of times in the supermarkets, is minoxidil. Minoxidil is famously right now used for alopecia, like or hair loss, right? And but little did we know that the interesting fact of minoxidil was that in the late 1950s and 1960s, chemists used it basically for reducing hypernappia, apnea in humans. So, so all of these, are examples of how of successful drug repurposing. But the minoxidil has been, the effects of minoxidil were repurposed using traditional methods. That is, when scientific communities come together and do deep research and then find out which could, through their intuition and um, through serendipity, they find out how a certain drug could treat some other disease. Now, what I'm going to talk about is how AI can affect the process of drug repurposing. And in more or less, it is going to talk about the positive effects of how generative AI can repurpose a certain drug. So traditional methods versus AI-driven approaches. So I'm going to compare and contrast two of these methods, like traditional methods. So when you think of traditional methods, you can picturize, scientific communities coming together in a panel discussion and discussing about how a certain drug would be effective, how a certain chemical compound would be effective if implemented in a certain drug, and what goes through the process. But like it includes vast amount of research, deep dive research that includes literature mining and database, skimming through databases and patent filings to identify drugs that have potential for repurposing. So this is a time-consuming process as traditional methods include a lot of human intervention. Uh, Now clinicians have to go through off-label benefits, so they have to go off the track to find out what are the benefits of a certain drug and what would be the future potential of that certain drug while utilized in repurposing. So this is time consuming. And another process is high throughput screening. So high throughput screening involves like using large libraries of traditionally existing drugs uh, against various biological targets. So there are drugs act on certain targets. So when you're talking about like say some common example like paracetamol that can treat migraine or headaches, it is targeting a certain molecule or a protein uh, in your body, which is so these are called target binds. And so there has to, so scientists create a high throughput screening library in order to see how these drugs are targeting certain diseases. And but this can be very expensive and laborious because imagine you have like a large library of chemical compounds, and you want to trial and test each chemical compound on what would be the effective target that it would affect on. It would have the most effect on, or would be most efficient at. So that is a trial and error kind of process. So this is very time consuming. And another method is testing drugs against cellular and animal models of the disease to observe potential therapeutic effects. So you can look at things at a cellular level, and you can look at things at an organelle level. So when you go down testing drugs on an animal model or even say human, we will have to dissect it to certain levels of models of diseases. So this again is a very laborious and time-consuming process. And what if we had something like an intervention of AI, which was trained to quality data and which could actually test drugs against cellular or animal models or even human models, as a matter of fact, to identify the perfect target binds for these drugs to act upon to alleviate the disease, or in some cases even get rid of the disease. So this is where AI driven intervention comes into place. So in AI driven methods, we have data driven predictions, right? So AI algorithms like machine learning models analyze large data sets. So they analyze data sets that include omics data, drug target interactions, and clinical data. So when we are analyzing large data sets, and when a certain AI model is pre-trained to a lot of good quality data, it is able to correctly identify the target binds and effectively convey to the user that this particular drug is best suited for or best repurposed for targeting a certain disease. And another commonly used, like this has become a new thing, which is network-based approach. So network science is a massively growing field, and AI is leveraging this knowledge through knowledge graphs and neural nets by creating biological networks. So this biological networks predominantly contains protein-protein interactions. So there is a huge database store for these protein-protein interactions or gene disease association networks, where you can identify the drugs that can modulate disease pathways. So another method is natural language processing. So natural language processing can rapidly scan and analyze vast amount of biomedical literature to identify potential drug repurposing opportunities. So you would have heard of, like vector embeddings inside a certain vector store, and say you're feeding in an AI model certain biological vector embedding. So it contains all the text related to a certain disease, and you have all the protein interactions with relation to that certain disease. So then it'll, by training it and by by employing prompt engineering, or by asking the pre-trained model what particular chemical compound would be best suitable for a certain drug. Since it is pre-trained to an already existing neural net which has gone through a certain probabilistic distribution through its trial and error, it is able to convey, and through the course of this webinar, I'll be showing you a code on how a chemical compound is repurposed, and I'll be talking about it soon. But this is how NLP techniques can also be devised in coming about an AI-driven approach to solving, to aid in drug repurposing. And another method is virtual screening and docking. So AI enhances traditional virtual screening methods by predicting how drugs will interact with biological targets at a molecular level. So you would have come across something called gene ontology. So gene ontology is nothing but looking into the molecular function, the biological process, and the cellular components that go about when deciding if a certain protein is interacting with another protein. So when we are creating such an ontology, we are able to simulate the correct drug-target interaction, and thus reducing the need for extensive experimental screening, because we have gotten confidence from the AI through various prior docking and virtual screening to talk about how it interacts with biological targets, and how we can repurpose a certain drug. Another AI-driven method is multi-omics integration. So multi-omics integration includes genomics, transcriptomics, proteomics, and all of these methods to identify repurposed opportunities. So what I would like to say about multi-omics integration is that this AI can suggest drugs that can modulate these pathways to treat new conditions. So say minoxidil, which was used for predominantly hypertension, is now used for treating alopecia. So what went what went into the research behind how minoxidil was repurposed is something that AI, if AI was intervening in it, could accelerate the process of repurposing and give you a more accurate data, or more accurate method of repurposing a certain drug. Another method is generative models. So we have come across the term generative AI. So through AI, through novel hypothesis of drug repurposing, we can simulate how different drugs might affect different disease pathways. So there are multiple pathways for various diseases, and generative model can actually propose drug disease pairs that haven't been previously considered. So so through humans do it through trial. So the traditional method, which is the human intervention, is through trial and error. But see, generative models have already been pre-trained to a certain neural network architecture, and that neural network architecture predominantly relies on drug disease in pairs. So say there is multiple nodes of drugs and then multiple nodes of diseases, and through trial and error, it has been trained to find out which drug would be the most effective. So there'll be multiple probabilistic distribution behind the scenes, which could tell you which drug, if utilized for a certain disease, would be the most effective. Say you have a lot of like chemical compounds, and you have certain diseases, and say 0.8 is for that certain chemical compound is giving a probability of 0.8 for a certain disease and 0.2 for another disease. So this means that that particular drug is most effective for that particular disease, which shows a probability of 0.8. So this is how generative models can better be, when utilized, can be of best approach when compared to traditional approaches. So now I'm going to talk about how traditional methods, how AI-driven AI-driven approach supersedes the traditional approach in multitudes. So in terms of efficiency, right? In terms of efficiency, you can see that so AI-driven approach can analyze vast amounts of data quickly and propose like repurposing candidates that would challenge to identify traditional methods. So traditional methods are very what to say, laborious, and it has to go through like human intervention and trial and test, whereas AI-driven approach is already can analyze vast amount of data with more efficiency. And then comes accuracy. AI models, when trained on high quality data, can make more accurate predictions. So when it is exposed to millions of size worth data, and when it is exposed to a lot of through maybe RAG, I think some of you would have heard of RAG. So through RAG and multi-head RAG, when it's exposed to a lot of external sources and exposed to a lot of high quality data, then it is able to make accurate predictions about drug efficacy and safety in new environments and new indications. So it is fairly adaptable in terms of its approach. And then next comes scalability. So scalability, the traditional approach is often it requires significant human effort and resources, whereas AI can scale these efforts across many drugs and diseases simultaneously. So it can like scale these efforts across a lot of drugs and diseases, so in the same time. So since traditional methods has to go through like and since it's time bound, and it can only be like a certain drug can be tested on a certain chemical compound, or a certain disease. A certain chemical compound can be tested on a certain disease only one time, only once at a time, right? So but through like AI has a parallel approach where it can do this simultaneously for multiple drug target disease targets. So scalability is one feature that stands out when implementing the AI driven approach. Another approach, one of the highlights of the features of AI driven approach is insight. So AI can uncover novel mechanisms of action and complex drug target disease drug interactions, offering deeper insights compared to like traditional methods, where traditional methods have to rely on serendipity and observational based methods. So yeah, some of the key roles of generative some of the key roles of generative AI in drug repurposing. So one of the key roles is hypothesis generation. So you would have heard of null hypothesis and alternative hypothesis, right? So when you're prompting as a user, when you're prompting to a GPT model, and when you're prompting a certain hypothesis, say I'm suffering from this disease, and that is the null hypothesis. I'm suffering from a certain disease, and I have been administered this particular drug X to elevate this disease. And an alternate hypothesis is something like, but my neighbors told me that a drug Y would be better suited to target this disease and elevate this disease once and for all. So the beauty of generative AI is it's able to analyze through statistically, and it is able to draw in a conclusion on how it can predict new disease targets or biological pathways that can affect existing drugs. Another thing is molecular optimization. So molecular optimization is AI can modify existing drugs to improve their efficacy or reduce side effects for the new indications. So so when you see these existing drug molecules, right? Uh, so we are repurposing these molecules to we are optimizing these molecules uh, to uh, to target a certain disease that could reduce the side effects for the new indication. So in other words, it's reducing a lot of the hassles or uh, the hassles or the tribulations that are being faced when following a traditional method. And another method is molecular optimization. So AI can modify, another method is predicting drug target interaction. So generative AI models can actually predict how existing drugs will interact with different biological targets, helping to identify new therapeutic applications. So, like in the backend of a certain generative AI model, there are neural nets, and there is a method called RHLF, which is reinforcement learning with human feedback. Sorry, it is RLHF, reinforcement learning through human feedback. And so through a bunch of as the AI learns from various text and prompts, it is able to zero down on which drug will affect a certain disease target. So it helps in identifying new therapeutic applications. So it paves way to new methods in which a certain drug can particularly affect a certain disease in a positive way. So that is the beauty of the interplay of generative AI in drug repurposing. And another thing is drug combination discovery. So when we have to zero down on a certain drug that affects a target bind of a certain disease, we will have to AI can assist with it. So AI can assist with the right amount of drug combination. So bunch of molecules, say XYZ, with a certain base, you might see in the in the backside of a certain like drug, the number of the chemical composition of certain molecules for that certain drug, right? So AI can actually facilitate in accurately giving the chemist or the lab assistant the right amount of the chemical composition that needs to be utilized in order to treat certain diseases, particularly in common diseases like cancer uh, and neurodegenerative diseases like Alzheimer's, etc. So yeah, so this is the role of generative AI in drug repurposing. And now, benefits of using generative AI for drug repurposing. So, drug repurposing, in many cases, virtual screening and filtering. So, AI can filter out vast library of existing drugs against targets, enabling to filter out the most promising candidates for drug filtering. So, AI models can predict the potential side effects or toxicity of a certain repurposed drug, and in the process it can ensure safety in new therapeutic contexts. So when you look at this, you can see that there is multiple advantages of using generative AI, and the beauty of it is that it all happens at simultaneously. There is no when we are going through traditional methods, the it is definitely time bound, but it takes days or even sometimes years for a discussion panel to conclude that uh, this certain particular drug is effective to treat this certain disease. In most of the cases, this particular drug gets discarded. That particular drug might get discarded, but when AI is intervened, it is reinventing this drug to and it's giving it a new purpose by giving um, by channelizing this drug to operate on a certain level um, where it can cure another certain disease. So that is the beauty of how generative AI can be used for drug repurposing. Another thing is cost and time efficiency. So generative AI is,
Mrinal, I
yeah.
just have a question here.
Yes, sir.
Could you also highlight what are the common large language models or any specific generative AI models that you must have found which are currently used for drug repurposing? Just to
Okay,
give an
so
overview. Yeah.
okay. So you mean to say, like, are there any large language models that have already pre-existing large language models, right?
Yeah, I mean, do we need specialized LLMs for this, or can we use the existing LLMs to,
Uh,
use?
Yeah, so that is something that I can look up in Hugging Face. Maybe post this. Like I can give you some of these LLMs. I'm not sure if I've found any, but I have created a backend code that goes into how chemical compounds can be repurposed, which I'll be explaining in the next slide. So yeah, so I'll be
Okay.
talking about that. But I am not sure off the bat. We can. Do you mind if I do a parallel search right now? Do you want me to do it right now?
No, that's okay. You can
Yeah,
give
but
us.
I can give you what are these, these large language models that are present for drug repurposing. I can definitely give you some of these large language models that do this. I can look that up.
Sure, sure.
Yeah. Okay, so and then next is personalized medicine. So when it comes to drugs, different people from different, drugs affect people of different demographic areas in different environment, and drugs interact based on the environment that it is, and it's so it is very essential for someone to personalize to get a personalized experience to their drug, right? So when you go over the counter at a pharmacy, maybe you might be given a certain drug like through like serendipity. But when it comes to AI can when it is now it is at this nascent stages, so I can't completely vouch for AI, but once it gets developed, it can be a powerful tool to give you a personalized experience through your drug therapy. So it can identify biomarkers. In other words, it can identify biomarkers that can indicate which patient are most likely to benefit from a repurposed drug. we, like us Indians, we we might react differently to certain drugs as opposed to people from the West. So it is highly important for someone to create a personalized drug uh, drug experience, and in a more effective fashion. So as AI learns about this, and as large language models keep coming up and gets trained to personalized medicine, it can identify these biomarkers effectively, and it can help patients benefit from this repurposed drug. So this is one of the benefits of using generative AI in the long run. And another thing is accelerating clinical trials. So AI can assist in designing more efficient clinical trials by identifying the most promising drug candidates. So this can reduce the failure rates and traditionally associated with drug development. So like I said, like in the previous example that I said, like there might be a huge panel discussion about how this particular drug can be effective for a certain disease. But if AI is given a permission to intervene, it can effectively assist in designing more efficient clinical trials. In one thing, I'm like assuming that it can even tell you the timelines on when the drug trials can be conducted in order to best promise the candidates on the effectiveness of that drug. So this reduces the failure rates, and this reduces the overall cost that it takes for number of clinical trials that have gone through for a certain drug. So drugs can go through like 3 or 4, or even in some cases 10 stages of failed clinical trials. So with the intervention of AI, we can reduce the number of these clinical trials and effectively bring out a certain drug which has been repurposed into the commercial markets for the consumers to use it. So these are some of the benefits of using generative AI for drug repurposing. Now, just like a coin has two sides, there are even challenges for there are even challenges when it comes to having generative AI while performing drug repurposing. So one of the challenges is that it is in danger of having confirmational bias. So when AI model has been pre-trained to a large set of data, in some cases, when we are seeing large language model at its nascent stages, we cannot fully trust on using this large language model for drug repurposing, because it might be exposed to only a small amount of data. So this can cause bias. So, and especially when this drug is, the purpose of this drug is to affect universally. Say for COVID-19, the whole world was affected by COVID-19. But if we had intervened using AI, and especially when it was in its nascent stages, and especially when it was, trained to an existing data, and it is not used to the COVID-19 data sets, right? So if we had relied upon completely on AI, I'm not saying we shouldn't have had AI, but if you had completely relied upon AI, then it would have definitely cost. I don't think we would have had remdesivir as a proper drug to have mitigated the effects of AI, effects of COVID-19. So some level of human intervention is required. And when it comes to deciding if a certain drug can be universally accepted by people from all socioeconomic factors. So that is one of the challenge that AI engineers in the drug discovery team are facing right now. And another thing is transparency. So when you look at AI, it operates in a black box method, which is like you never know what goes behind the scenes of how the AI is getting the information, about how this how it has correctly come about zero down on the fact that this particular drug can affect this particular disease. So there's a lack of transparency there, and there's no much explanation on how this AI has zeroed down on a certain chemical compound that would affect this drug. So this can cause a lot of mistrust between clinicians and healthcare doctors. So especially when these healthcare professionals have been in the industry for years and years. So there has to be a clear and explainable, model, maybe like through their documentation when the AI engineers are creating such large language model, through documentations through GitHub and other repositories, they must be talking about how the transparency and explainability part of how they should be relying upon this AI model rather than human intervention on on effectively repurposing a certain drug to cure a certain disease. And another thing is patient privacy and data security. So AI oftentimes than not, it relies on large scale patient data. So like we I mean, as an AI engineer, I have seen, like, when I'm training a certain AI model, I am when I'm supposedly training, say, creating a chatbot, I'm training it to number of metadata information, JSON files, like in some sense, like 11.2 million, like so many millions and millions of metadata information. But so in this case, we are we are using patient doctor conversations. So when we are using that, we are using it in the expense of the patient's privacy. Certain patients would not want to reveal their diseases or anything, but the AI might have extracted information related to that patient. So we are breaching a patient's privacy and code of conduct. So this can in some ways, if there was an ethical law, set of rules that governs the ethical practices of AI, then this is breaching against the ethical practices. So patient privacy has been overlooked most times than not through AI, and I would propose in the future that there must be a certain set of rules that would be governing into creating, especially for the drug repurposing aspect of generative AI. So when it comes to generative AI, especially when it is intervening into practices of drug repurposing, it has to follow, or it has to keep in mind, or maybe we can even create a context where we tell the large language model that it has to follow a set of rules that in such a way that it does not affect the privacy of the patient, and it entails this the security of the data, and it does not breach past it. So there are a number of examples of how unauthorized access to sensitive information has led to ethical issues. And this can only be mitigated by ensuring compliance with data protection regulatory board. And in one case, there is a data protection regulation board that has come up, which is called GDPR. It is in its nascent stages, but in the future, the more laws that has been coming into this picture, the better it would, the better our AI would not aberrate towards towards and affect patient privacy and data security. So these are some of the challenges that generative AI has been facing when it comes to drug repurposing, or when it comes to drug discovery in general. So these are some of the challenges. And another challenge is access and equity. So when you see AI-driven drug repurposing could widen the gap between those who have advanced healthcare and those who don't. So yeah, in one case, this can be a necessary evil, this can this can shatter the privacy of a certain of people who can access a certain drug in order to cure a certain disease. So this could but another scheme of light, we can see that it can exacerbate the existing healthcare inequalities. So there are number of laws that governs passing a certain drug when it comes to the when we pass a certain drug into the market. And if you are completely publicizing or making it available for making a certain drug available to the public, then it could it could possible it could there could be a possibility that it could breach the uh, equitable access to AI technologies. So this can be a boon and a bane in disguise, because in one sense it is actually helping the underserved population, and in the other sense these underserved population are gaining access to a lot of information which may not be which may not be legal. So AI has to go through this ethical standards that can that AI has to have a mind of its own to know when to give out certain information to certain strata of society, and when to know. So that is one of the challenge that people have been facing as AI engineers in the drug discovery team. And another thing is informed consent and patient autonomy. So since AI does not have a mind of its own, and it's basically operating through previously trained large language models, it does not take into the fact of of the autonomy that a patient can have when deciding to choose a certain drug that could be administered to his body, his or her body. So say we have a future, imagine a future where AI is your doctor, and it is telling you that this particular drug has been should be administered to your body at this point, and it even force feeds you that drug, and you do not want it. But and in if you're looking at it in a dystopian point of view, it is actually affecting you in a negative direction. So in that case, we need AI to to become more empathetic in some sort, where it is able to understand the patient's convenience, and it is able to understand how AI is able to, I mean, how it can effectively effectively cure a patient's disease without compromising his peace of mind, or without compromising his autonomy. And so this is a challenge where AI has to tackle when in coming in contact with humans, where it is able to understand the informed choices that the humans want to make. So there has to be a balance. Now I'm going to demonstrate a code that I have devised. Yeah, so now I'm going to demonstrate a code that I have devised, which in some sense talks about how what goes in the back end of drug repurposing, right? So yeah, so can everyone see this this piece of code?
No, can you increase the font, please?
Yes. Okay. Can you see this code?
Yeah, maybe a tad more.
Okay.
Yeah, good now. It's good.
Okay. I'll just load. 1 second. 1 second. 1 second. Let me. Yeah. Is it visible now? Is the code visible?
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
Okay. Okay. So I'm going to load this particular CSV file to show you what is inside the CSV file. Okay, one second.
Pranav, could you stop transcribing the call? Others are
Sorry?
not allowed. Not Mrinal, not you. There's someone named Pranav. Okay, no worries.
Sorry, this CSV file is taking some time to load. Let me just close all the other activities. Okay, I don't know. I would want to show you the compound, but I'm not able to. It's not loading now. I don't know why. Let's see. Okay, but anyways, I'll just, so there is this package called RDKit that I have used for basically loading something called smile strings. So smiles are nothing but so yeah. So smiles notation for a certain chemical compound. So you can see that this is morphine, and the smiles notation for morphine is this. So basically, when you go clockwise, so when you feed into a certain model, you are actually, so you cannot pass in a chemical compound like this and expect your AI model to understand that this is morphine. So there's a certain there's a certain method to be followed and a notation to be followed, which is called SMILES. It abbreviates for Simplified Molecular Input Line Entry System. So this translates a chemical three-dimensional structure into a string of symbols. So when you do that, you are actually passing this notation to to your AI model. And through the advent of this code, I'll show you how we are actually doing that. Okay, so yeah, so I have loaded this CSV file, and I'm not able to. I don't know why it's not opening. It's yeah, but I could have shown you what goes inside the CSV file, but never mind. I am accessing this column called canonical smiles within this particular CSV file. So canonical. So I have this column. There are a number of columns here, but the column that I'm interested in is canonical smiles because it represents the molecule, the chemical compound molecules in this format, which is this one, the smiles notation format. So it represents all of these, like all of these chemical molecules in a linear fashion. So what I'm doing is actually, so here it comes about where I'm preparing the data set, where I am encoding, I'm creating an array where I'm using only the encoded smiles. And because we are using something called VAE. VAE is variable autoencoder. So variable autoencoder architecture, like as some of you would know, is basically using an encoder and decoder and feeding it back to the input. So what a variable autoencoder has is the architecture behind it. The intuition behind a variable autoencoder is that it picks in the necessary features that would best be suited for a certain model from the vast amount of features that are available. So so here in this case, the canonical smiles might have a lot of aberrations, lot of chemical. I wish I could show you the. Okay, now it's loaded. Yeah. Okay. So you can see the canonical smiles column. You can see here that these are the for a certain
Mrinal, could you
compound.
zoom in a little bit? It might be a
Yeah,
little too small. Yeah.
yeah, sure.
And would love you to zoom in a little bit more. Yeah.
Yeah, like this. Okay.
Yeah. Can you go ahead
Yeah.
and yeah, best.
So you
Thanks.
have a compound name. You have so this is basically like whatever combinations can come for this particular. So these are synonyms for that particular compound. So the number of within the folic acid compound name, there are number of these acids that come under the same branch. So these are those compounds, and this is the molecular weight. This is the molecular function. I'm not aware of how this is, like I searched about this, but I don't think this is necessary for our use case because we are predominantly looking for drug repurposing. So I think the things that we need to bother about is basically the first two columns, the iso smiles and the canonical smiles. So yeah, so you can see in the iso smiles, it is an unfiltered form of the actual smile structure. So after filtration, they have come about this to be the purest form of that particular compound. Now, I am passing these canonical smiles, which is the linear representation of that particular compound, and feeding it into our variable autoencoder. So variable autoencoder, like I said, has an encoder and a decoder and an encoder architecture. So basically, it decodes what features are necessary to go about creating this particular model that can take in drug, that can repurpose a certain drug, and it encodes it back and sends it to the input so that you're sending a valid chemical compound into that model. So in this case, I have this is what the encoder architecture looks like. This is the sampling function, and this is the decoder. So you're passing it through an encoder, extracting the necessary features using a sampling function, and in this case you're using a normal distribution function, and you're seeing which of these are more than 0.5 or lies more than what is that so whichever lies between the 0.005 confidence interval, that is taking up at least 97.5 percentage of that particular normal distribution curve's area, you are using that as a sampling function and passing and using that into the decoder architecture. So that is how we are eventually creating this variable autoencoder, where it has an encoder. So you can see you're passing an input, you're creating an encoder architecture, and then you're passing a decoder across that encoder. So that is what goes about a variable autoencoder. And then we're calling something called variable autoencoder loss. So in variable autoencoder loss, we are using a reconstruction loss, and we're using KL loss. So what a KL loss is that it's named after a scientist. I forget his name, but it regularizes the latent space. So once you extract the features, it is through the encoder, it is passed to the latent space, and from the latent space, it goes through categorical cross entropy, and reduces. And it using TensorFlow, TF is TensorFlow here. We are reconstructing this the necessary features from that smiles that is that goes about in this reconstruction loss variable, and then we are passing something called KL divergence loss. So this regularizes the latent space by pushing in the learned distribution closer. So we are zeroing in on the ideal. So what goes behind this is when we are passing some naive, canonical smile chemical compound like this, it is zeroing in down on what particular compound would be the best suited, while drug repurposing. So what would be that ideal compound? So yeah, so as I said, this is the encoder decoder architecture, and then you're connecting the whole of it to a VAE output, and we are getting a final output. So and then this final output is optimized using a Adam optimizer, and using a loss function called sparse categorical. You can use any loss. I use sparse categorical. Sparse because it has to zero in down. Categorical cross entropy is generally used. Sparse categorical cross entropy I'm using because the loss has to be even reduced in order to get the ideal chemical compound. So when I'm doing this, I'm actually I was redoing this code. So I initially had passed it for 50 epochs. I had passed it like 2 days ago, but it didn't complete. So I had repassed it, and I passed it for 5 epochs. Now it has been trained for 2 epochs, and once it has been trained, I am printing out the. In this case, it's not printing out the right compound because it is going through the epochs. But I can share you this code after the completion of this webinar session, and you can run this code and see for yourself how the initial canonical smiles chemical compound that you have passed has changed into something different once you are generating it post once you're generating the smiles from this function. So you'll be able to correctly see the smiles compound that is going about, and that is what goes. I think if we are able to utilize this in the back end for CellBot, for whatever we can create a parallel we can create a parallel drug repurposing pipeline as well. And we can use this as the underlying, architecture. This is just the foundation, but we can go even further deep. So this, I think, should be the inspiration behind creating some drug repurposing architecture. So in the end, I'm importing something called Chem, and and this is Chem is basically to cross-verify if a certain smile is valid or not. So Chem is a huge repository of large chemical compound database, and that's why I'm loading RDKit, because it contains all the valid chemical compounds, whether it's natural or whether it's artificially synthesized. And so whatever our generated smiles is producing, right? It is something that we have created. We have created through a variable autoencoder, and we don't know if that is valid or not. So in order to check if the validity of that chemical generated smile compound, when we are passing something like this, when you're passing something like when we're using something like chem, it is validating if that particular smile is actually present in the large group of compounds that can be found in this repository, which is chem. So this validates your chemical compound. So I think this is very interesting because the utility is great. Like we are able to find out the necessary chemical compound that can be used for repurposing a certain drug. So yeah, so that is what goes about this coding code. Please feel free to reach out to me to if you guys want this code. I just created this pipeline like 3 days ago, and in light of this seminar. So yeah, please feel free to to ask me this code, and I can hand it over to you, and we can build upon this code even further.
Mrinal,
Yeah.
I just wanted to ask you something, just so that everyone on the call also understands.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
the the module that you imported, chem, so
Yeah.
it holds all the potential smiles, or does it hold all the existing smiles that humans have discovered in the process of
So
drugs?
okay, so to verify that, see, from what I know, it contains all the human discovered, smiles.
Compounds.
For yeah. But to cross verify, let's just look, because I don't want to tell something that is might be wrong. So let's see. With molecular
I think
file
it's a
format.
molecular file format. Yeah,
Yeah.
probably that.
So so it's a molecular file format, huh?
Yeah,
If you're
someone has
using,
a.
but if you're using it predominantly for checking if a particular compound is valid or not, we would maybe it has a repository or something.
There's a question on the chat as well, whether RDKit and Chem are open source. I believe
Yeah,
they're open source.
you can find number of smiles compounds. Yeah, smiles is open source. Is chem what do you mean by you mean the
Chem,
chem
the
module
module.
that I imported?
Yeah.
This one. Right. Yeah, it seems fairly open source. If I'm able to install RDKit, and if I'm able to import it from RDKit, then I think it's open source.
Okay.
So reading and writing smiles using RDKit.
So I believe smiles is a way of writing chemical formula, which is more like human readable format. Yeah.
No, actually, it is for your AI, because AI cannot take in images of large chemical compounds, right? It cannot take images and find out if that is morphine or so. We need to create a linear entry system for it. So smiles is that. So it goes. By the way, smiles is like say, yeah. So there's an example here, right? So what smiles would do in this case in isobutyric acid, that's fairly simple compound, but it goes like in a linear fashion. So in brackets, whatever you see is the atom that is attached apart from the main line. So main line is CCO, and whatever is attached to it is like the carbon and the oxygen atom. So so smiles follows that kind of rule. So in this case, when you see C1 means the first carbon atom in a benzene ring. So C1, and then you can see here C2, C3. So all of this means like the first carbon atom of a benzene ring. So that's what it denotes. If you just Google up smiles, and in Wikipedia it shows how you know what goes around in smiles architecture. Like how do they come about? Yes, this is a great example where this is called ciprofloxacin, and you're going from left to right, right? So N1, C is the carbon atom here. In SMILES architectures, we do not, hydrogen is intrinsically, like whatever is spaced out, nitrogen has what, three covalent, how many atoms? Three covalent atoms, right? So, so N3, so it is known that hydrogen is, already present, attached to nitrogen. So we do not, we will not see a hydrogen atom in SMILES architecture because of the serendipity that we know that the chemical compound is the scientists have created SMILES architecture to in such a way. So yeah, you can see N1, then C, then N, then it is attached to C1. Main ring. So the color of the green color is given to the main ring, right? So N1 CC1, and CC1 is nothing but this color. I don't know what this color is. I think it's a cyan color. So this is CC1. So that is given in brackets, and then you go to the next molecule, which is C, and then that is attached to the brown ring, which is CFC2, which is this one, and then you go here, which is double bond C. So that is how SMILES is.
I think SMILES basically figures out a main backbone of the molecule, and all the other extended colors form
extended
like
colors
branches,
are denoted in branches. Yes.
Yeah, denoted in branches. Yeah, and in the
Mhm.
order with which they are numbered are decided from where the branch originates. So if you can observe it, the first branch originates, so it's 1, the second is second, then the third, then fourth, so on.
Yes. Exactly. Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. So yeah.
Any other questions? Yeah.
So yeah, I think if I'm able to import chem from RDKit, then fairly it is an open source library. So yeah, here also you can see he has used chem. He has used chem here, and this is to I think they want to draw the chemical compound from. So they're doing the reverse process. So chem is an open source thing. You can load chem from RDKit. I hope that answered your question. Yeah, Ashta, right? Yeah, I hope that answered your question.
Okay, great.
All right.
Any other questions?
Sorry, I went too little deep in that.
No worries. That's the whole purpose. We are trying to basically model things that would help us tackle, use generative AI in drug discovery, use generative AI in healthcare and pharmaceuticals. And this was a great way of representing information. So yeah, thank you so much, Mrinal, for taking us through this amazing session. Yeah,
sure.
great
There's
deep dive.
Still more, like I was going to talk about the future outlook and everything.
Sure, go ahead.
Yeah. So yeah, one sec. Yeah. So what is the future outlook of the future picture of generative AI? What does it look like? So you can think with generative AI in the drug repurposing realm, we can think of a lot of advantages that can come about. when incorporating when having generative AI in drug repurposing, right? So one second, I'm getting a call. Yeah. So I'm getting a call. Oh, one second, just. Yeah, sorry about that. Yeah. Yeah, so in terms of accelerated drug discovery and development, so generative, so you can see here these infographics like that I have mentioned here. I have used data sources like NCBI, Uniprot, gene ontology, and everything. These are data sources from which if you use generative AI, if you are using generative AI, it's better to expose your AI model to such data sources so that it can predict accurately, and it will be trained to a large repository of chemical molecules. And another thing is like that goes about this thing, like I said previously, was gene ontology, right, which contains cellular compounds, molecular function, and yeah, cellular compounds, molecular function, and one more thing, and something, yeah, I forget what it is, but there are three components that go into gene ontology. uh, so um, so like all of these, when put taken into consideration, can reduce the redundancy, or make the data set more unskewed, so that we are able to rely on AI in the future for drug repurposing. So, so generative AI will increase the streamline of drug delivery process, significantly reducing the time and cost required to bring repurposed drugs to market. Now, this would be of significant use, especially during like dire times like global pandemic and time-sensitive where time-sensitive drug could be life-saving. Then another thing is personalized medicines and target therapies. So when with the advent of AI, the more models it's been trained, the more personalized it can become in the future. For where you can just ask an AI chatbot about what kind of drug would best be suited to treat my certain disease, and it'll give you answers based on your personality, based on your it knows about your prior, where all you've lived, where all your imagine AI knowing about your background, but it's a personalized AI. Okay, there's no privacy breach there. You and you're having this AI all for yourself. It knows everything in and out about your body, about your nature of your body and everything, and it's able to predict and give you proper drugs that can cure your disease. So isn't that a more efficient means of like medicine or therapy? So I think in the future we can see more personalized medicines coming into picture with the advent of AI, and more targeted therapies. So where patients are more likely to benefit from a repurposed drug. Imagine a world where we have repurposed drugs being of more utility than the clinically trial and tested drugs. We are even saving the environment and planet in this way, because a lot of these have been discarded by chemical plants into rivers, and this has caused a lot of pollution. And with a simple thing like with AI, we can reduce even pollution, like that has been globally affecting us for years. So such things are all, these are all domino effects, and if AI can bring about a positive change, then this domino effect can be a good thing. And another thing is enhance collaboration across disciplines. So AI can encourage interconnectivity of different disciplines from people from different backgrounds. Say a healthcare professional is, is somehow interlinked to the drug discovery team through the advent of AI. This can fasten and ease the process of drug delivery to that particular patient who is in dire need of that certain drug. So all of this are like the potential, it's like a utopian view of how AI can affect the future of drug discovery. Another thing is regulatory evolution and framework. So yeah, so regulatory agencies, they need to adapt in order to keep up with AI-driven advancement, because they cannot follow the traditional methods of regulation, right? So they need to adapt, and this enables the legal. So this makes the framework also learnable, like something that can be adapted for ages to come. So this enables the legal adoption of new frameworks that allow AI-assisted therapies such as drug repurposing, and also allows the flexibility needed for rapid innovation. And another thing is ethical AI and governance. As the use of AI in drug repurposing becomes more widespread, there will be an increase in the focus in ethical AI practices. So the more we rely on AI, the more we need to regulate, and we need to have a regulatory board that governs across this, right? So we need to address and we need to include fairness, transparency, and accountability, and also address issues of bias and data privacy and patient autonomy. This will ensure not only equal distribution of benefits of AI and drug repurposing, but it could also affect people from all backgrounds. And another thing is AI-driven clinical trials. So the future seems very bright for possibility of AI-driven clinical trials. Imagine you don't need human intervention. AI is doing all the clinical trials and testing for you. This can lead to efficient trials, reducing time, reducing cost, and reducing all of this in bringing the drugs to the market, so that it can increase the likelihood of successful outcomes. Then we have market disruption and new business. Like another thing is with AI, with the advent of AI and drug repurposing, we can we can think of like significant disruption in the traditional markets of pharmaceutical industry. Traditional businesses models may evolve with a shift towards more agile and data-driven approach to drug development and commercialization. Another thing is global health impact. So AI-driven drug repurposing can play a huge role when bridging the gaps between patients and the from the underserved community and the access to healthcare by giving them free platforms to access cost-effective and efficient drugs to treat their illnesses and improve their outcomes. And the last thing that I can think of is ongoing innovation. So once we reach a stage of complacency in the ethical practices or in AI, especially in drug repurposing, we are setting ourselves for danger. So there needs to be continuing innovation and in AI amongst the masses and drug repurposing, because this will enable in ongoing imagine you're combining different interdisciplinaries like bioinformatics, pharmacology knowledge. You will gain the AI can gain insights from all of these multidisciplinaries and educate the upcoming researchers and developers. So and there needs to be a continuous learning pattern, not only within the AI community but also within humans. So yeah, so that concludes my presentation for today, and I'd like to say, yeah, this is something that I thought of, and I have coined these words. These are my words. The future of generative AI and drug repurposing holds the potential to transform healthcare, making it more efficient, personalized, and accessible. However, realizing this potential will require careful navigation of ethical, regulatory, and technical challenges to ensure that the benefits are maximized while the risks are minimized. So I think this is a point to be pondered upon when having generative AI. There are cons and pros But the more we focus on the pros of generative AI and drug repurposing, I think the more progressive we will become as someone who can, who can let a generative AI affect us positively in our lives. So that concludes my presentation for today. Feel free to ask any questions if you have, or do you have any questions in the chat bot? I mean, in the chat section.
Thank you, Mrinal.
Yeah. Yeah, I hope.
Over to you.
Yeah, just a second. Yeah, so thank you so much, Mrinal. It is there are a couple of questions on the chat if you want to take them.
Deepak asks, is AI-driven clinical trial developed? So like I said, it's in its nascent stages. It's not like completely, you can't say that it's completely developed, which is why I could, when Dolce asked me, are there any LLM models? I was, I was a bit hesitant because I didn't want to, I was not completely, satisfied with the fact that there are, clinical trials here. So, I think in developed nations, they are following AI-driven clinical trial method. But by and large, in today's world, we need some sort of human intervention in order to pass a certain drug, to be commercially viable. So we need it. We do. I think the future definitely goes to having AI-driven clinical trial, but as of now, I think it's by and large human-driven. I hope that answered your question, Deepak. Kedar, can you give some genetic algorithms? I'm working on evolutionary computation. Okay, what do you mean by genetic algorithms, Kedar? Like, what do you mean? Like, do you mean like how I showed you the code that I did right now, the Smiles architecture code? For industry are building AI trials, like clinical trials. University, I'm not sure. That's a good question. I haven't done such a deep dive research into who have into the clinical trial aspect of AI. But I can definitely get back to you on this question. It's a very good question. Are you planning on higher studies or something? Is this why you ask? So yeah, Deepak, I'll definitely get. Okay. So yeah, you are okay. Well, I guess, yeah, so in terms of clinical trials, I'm not aware, but generative AI, sure, I can share you my LinkedIn. But yeah, so generative AI is, has become the talk of the town for a lot of people. And yeah, Dolce has shared with you, Deepak, or Kedar, yeah, so you can check that out. But I'm guessing, like, in terms of universities, top universities are always in terms of R&D in AI comes US, UK, and I have been recently researching about universities in UK, and I think University of Bath has a generative AI lab that they're working on where they are especially for drug discovery. So I'm guessing a bunch of researchers from the University of Bath will probably be devising a certain, a certain method or means for building AI-driven clinical trials. So I think it's coming up. It's coming up, but I've not read any news as of yet. So maybe it's in its initial stages. But I can definitely say in the upcoming years, it will surely be driven by AI as AI becomes more and more reliable and more and exposed to a lot of quality data. So I hope I answered your question, Deepak. You want me to share my LinkedIn? Sure.
Just to add on to Mrinal,
Yes.
Kedar, I have shared a list of most common genetic algorithms that are used. So the idea is that genetic algorithms are based on the concept of evolution and how natural selection actually takes place. So it's sort of like an optimization technique where you optimize which parts of the genetic codes are used and which parts. So basically, the whole idea of genomics is that 90% of the genetic code that we see in our body, that is held in our cells, that code is unaccessible. Even though that code, gives us information about our history, about our ancestry, and the things which are not needed by us, but we still hold that code. And maybe approximately only a part of that code is what gets translated, and what we see as the entire human body and whatever the processes that go on. So it's very surprising that only a very small amount of that code. So how do you find an optimization technique where you are, because when you're modeling genes, you have the access to the entire genetic code, the entire chromosomal code, but you might not need everything from there. So you might want to take only parts of that places. So sort of an optimization problem, because the amount of actually usable code is way less than the amount of code which is not used. That's all I wanted to add. Yeah.
Okay.
Go ahead, Mrinal. Go ahead and drop your LinkedIn. Yeah, I think you
Yeah,
did.
I've shared. I've shared, and Ram asked for the code pipeline. You mean the
It's
generative?
uploaded on the Google Drive.
Oh, okay. So you want this code, is it? The Smiles code?
Yeah, Mrinal, this would be uploaded on the Google Classroom. So not a problem. We'll
Oh,
share
yeah.
the
Okay.
Drive link with
Yeah.
everyone in the group. Yeah.
Yeah. We will share the drive link with you, Ram. Yeah. Any more questions, guys?
Okay, so are we showing CellBot or?
Yes, sir. Just waiting for everyone to finish their questions. If none, I'll share my screen. I think there are none. Mrinal, could you stop presenting? I'll quickly share my screen.
Sure. Yeah.
Okay, great. So the whole idea for today is to showcase, CellBot. So I wanted to take you guys through a search engine that we are building. So the idea is to develop a healthcare search engine, a healthcare and a pharmaceutical search engine, and this is our product, which is known as CellBot. Here, what you can do, you can choose any of the topics that you want to discuss. Some of them have been given here, but if you want, you can go ahead and write in your topic. So I guess the entire conversation today was about drug repurposing. So we can very quickly maybe write a name of a drug, paracetamol, and its uses, and we can send it. So what this tool does, it basically goes on to PubMed or archive depending on which data source you have selected. So PubMed is one of the largest biomedical biomedical literature database, which holds peer reviewed. So there is a term called peer reviewed. Peer reviewed means the research has been well vetted by many people and only then have been uploaded on PubMed. You can decide the number of papers that you want to pull. So if you want to pull 100 papers, 500 papers, 1000, 2000, and up to 5000. So mind you, more than 1000 papers, more than 500 papers takes a bit of time. So you might have to wait. And let's go ahead and click on search, and we'll move on to the chat page where we'll be able to explore what paracetamol is and how can we use it, and what other things that we can look at. So let's just see. So we give you a few sample questions to begin with if you don't know what you want to ask and you want to just start the conversation. Now we've recently added a new feature. So as of now, this is the test. This is something called the test block, and we'll be bringing the new feature after extensive testing. So right now, the question was pain relief versus fever reduction. So paracetamol has been a drug which has been used for managing pain, but you might have observed that it is also given in times of fever. So it has a duality per se, so you can use it for two different two different different conditions, and you can also of course use it for chronic and acute pain. Now the new feature that we are testing currently is the ability to create a graph. The whole idea is that you will be able to whatever papers that we have pulled on behalf of you from PubMed, you'll be able to visualize them, and you'll be able to understand what this paper is about, whether you want to explore the paper in depth or not. You can of course look at how independent papers are connected. So if I zoom in, there's a particular keyword called breast cancer, and most of these papers are the papers which are interconnected with this keyword would be linked. So as we can see, graphs are a very good way of modeling information, and we are trying to make your life simpler by giving you an option where you can um, uh, visualize information very easily. And of course the next step in this product would be to combine the two. So the next feature launch, we will definitely be announcing that. So the next feature launch, you will be able to chat within the graph, look for things within the graph, and also bring papers the papers visualize references that have been used for the answers in a graph like format. So yeah, any doubts whatsoever on this? I guess no doubts. All right. So yeah, this is our product. We are trying to build a healthcare search engine, and the whole idea behind building a search engine is that we have a lot of misinformation about healthcare. A lot of people are not aware, and the only form of information about healthcare we can get is either Google or our family doctors, or someone we know, a friend of ours who happened to go into a medical college. So we'll call them in the middle of the night for all these questions. So the whole idea is to bring information which is medically accurate, to bring information which is medically relevant to everyone, not just healthcare professionals. Of course healthcare professionals can all not just healthcare professionals, but yeah, the idea is here that for now the main purpose of this product would be to help professionals also access, healthcare professionals and providers access information in real time, and they don't have to rely on making decisions from Google or even Chat GPT or Perplexity. So it caters to both. Healthcare professionals also get medically relevant information, and everyone else also have access to information so that they can make better health decisions. That's all from my end, guys. Please go ahead and try CellBot. It will be an amazing and rewarding experience for you, and do drop in your feedback or your suggestions. We are happy to take them. We do have a contact form where you can drop in your suggestions. We are always looking out for critical feedback and new ideas, and any sort of help that you guys can provide. Yeah, that's all. Thank you all.
Okay, thank you all. Thanks, Mrinal. Excellent session. Thank you, Dulcie.
Thank you, sir.
Any final comments, audience, before we close this webinar? Okay, so if you are a strong LLM developer or healthcare expert, reach out to us. So we are happy to, or we seek collaboration and internships. We provide internships in the product team. We are developing a innovative, GenAI for healthcare platform called CellBot. So with that, we come to the end of this webinar. Yeah, go ahead and ask your question, please. Okay. All right. So no questions. So
can you share the Google Drive?
You mean the notebook?
Yes.
The code notebook.
Yes.
Yeah, I think
my
Mrinal,
notebook.
you can share.
I think
Yes.
in our thing, right? See, sharing it on the
Google Drive.
Google Drive link, right? So
Yes.
is he?
The collab
I mean,
link.
should I share?
You can share the collab link right here in chat. Okay.
Okay. Okay.
The collab URL, just share it in chat here.
Yeah. Yeah. I'll share. Let me just.
Folks, we do have a course in generative AI for healthcare, which is being presented on alternate Saturdays. So if you are curious about that, reach out to us. That's a course which requires enrollment, but these kind of webinars are open to all. Any other questions, audience?
One second, I'm sharing this link to him.
Okay, let me share the link to the course as well. Just a moment, please. You can see our Gen AI courses here. The health AI course is also mentioned on this page. Any other questions, folks?
Kedar, are you able to access it?
You have to open it because it says request.
No, I'm not able to access it. It's
You have to. Yeah, I think you have to say open to all.
Now it should be available. Kedar, please feel free to add if you would like add anything, any extension to the code if you'd like. Are you able to access it right now, Kedar?
Yes, it's opening now.
Yeah, it opened. Thank you.
I mean, there's going to be a drive link anyways shared for this, right? Like, should we? Yeah, okay.
Okay, so that brings us to the end of this webinar. Thank you all for joining.